Welcome to God with George Ortega and Joshua Bond. We're recording on Monday, November 16th at 2:41 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're going to talk about our relationship to God. I'm going to start us off. Basically, our relationship to God is the most fundamental relationship we can have, because every other relationship we have, for example, our relationships with people, with ideas, with the media, are all fundamentally about our relationship to God. In other words, like God is talking to us and with us through other people, through what we read. So the idea is, well, rather than having an indirect relationship with God, let's have a more direct relationship with God. It can't be a completely direct relationship, because that would be God relating with God. And we're just only ever manifesting God's will. We are a part of God. We are God because God is everything, but we're just not that part of God that controls things. Okay, so now here's the problem. So like, you would think it'd be easy to just like talk to God in this way, but it really is not. I mean, in other words, like we're so conditioned by society, by the world, to talk, to relate to everything but God, that's what we find ourselves doing a lot. I mean, like I try to talk to God every day, and I do relatively well, but I could do a lot better. I mean, it's very, very useful, very helpful. It has so many benefits to talk to God. So, that's one question. Why is it so difficult to talk to God? Josh, how you doing?
Yeah, well, it might be so difficult because we talk to God with this framework that we talk to other people, and we think of how we talk to other people. We're supposed to talk to God that way, and then we add in a little bit that we've picked up along the way. But think about this. God is everything, right? So that's like accessing all knowledge, all wisdom that we can't pick up from other places. We can't pick up from our other relationships in science and work and whatever, right? So that's really, where it's at, is seeking the answers, the causality, the reasons from this omnipresent, all-knowing source of why things are the way they are, why causality is playing out the way it is, why we feel the way we do, why life is the way it is, right? And so, not just seeking answers, but seeking, reassurance and peace and just comfort as well, right? So with this idea of the illusions and this idea that, we can have this relationship with God that is free of the illusions, and it allows us to be ourselves, right? Just as if we could have a relationship and talk to anybody we wanted, and them not, and us be able to say whatever we wanted, and them not to be able to judge us or act in a way that makes us feel bad for what we said. So we can just get these ideas off our chest, get these concerns, seek this knowledge with no judgment, no condemnation, and in that space be talking to this all-powerful creator of everything, and in that peaceful space get this insight and have the comfort of that, all-encompassing, all-loving, unconditional love relationship.
Excellent. And it's important to understand that when we're talking with God, when we're conversing with God, it's not like when we're conversing with another person where we actually hear, their voice very clearly and the thoughts are formed grammatically and all. Basically, talking to God or listening to God is like you ask God questions. For example, God, why is it that I'm not able to talk with you as much as I would like, and how and how can you help me to do this more? Okay, so like if you talk to God in that way, asking God for help in doing things that you can't do, it's not like you're going to get a voice in your head, talking back to you, unless of course you're a prophet, and most of us aren't at that level. We receive our communications from God through our thoughts, through our feelings. And sometimes our answer naturally doesn't come immediately. You know, we might ask God a question, some information to ask for help, and we don't sense that we've been answered, perhaps at least the way we want. Because sometimes I think what happens is that God will have us wait, you know, until the answer arrives. It might arrive later that day, the next day, but so all right. So like the other part is like, you know, so you know, you ask for God, you ask God for what you're not able to accomplish on your own, but also like with, you know, I want to talk to God more, so I'm not just going to like rely on asking for God. I'm going to like, you know, through my agency through just my being able to, I'm going to work on this. God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, George. And I mean, I struggle with this whole concept because I, came up from a very strong religious background of talking to God. It wasn't as extreme as some, you know, some religions, right? And claiming to hear the voice of God in their head. It's actually somebody speaking to them just like somebody would be speaking, right? But it was still strong, right? And in that, I went through that journey for many, many years and unraveling that and realizing that a lot of falsehoods come out of that, but really they're not falsehoods. They're right. They're closer relationship to reality, to causality. So, if a lot of people have departed from this practice, and me included, and I'm still trying to get back to it, but realizing that for those people who are false prophets or saying nonsense and God told them, right? There's still truth in that. There's still a reality in that, that's the message they heard for a reason, for a specific reason. And maybe they're not going to humble themselves and seek out cognitive awareness and metacognition to know why their reason differs from others. But that's not nearly as important as us realizing that there's a reason they heard that message, right? And it may be the wrong message, or it may be the wrong message for us, but the right message for them, right? And they may be saying it as if it applies to everybody, because that's kind of what we naturally do as the ego speaks, interprets this message we've heard. But, under the surface, there's some reality, some reason, right? And that can help us to have a better understanding of our relationship with God, with reality, with consciousness, and ourselves. And so looking at it from that perspective, then it becomes much more natural, less divisive, and less frustrating to start to develop this practice.
Yeah, and Josh, you bring up a great point. I mean, like often, it's not like sometimes, not occasionally, very often God will tell one person or a group of people one thing, tell another person or another group of people the completely opposite thing. So that like you have two groups of people that are being told opposing things about whatever, and basically now we're talking politics. Now we're talking about like the divisions within religion, within governments, within societies. I mean, like this. So like, and so you got to wonder, why does God do that? Because I mean, like, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if God got us all to agree? And that, Josh, you may know like the story of the Tower of Babel, where like, you would think like the Israelites, they build this tower going up to heaven. And I think this is a great thing, right? And God is whatever not pleased with that. So he basically mixes up their languages, so everybody's talking a different language. And that's a metaphor for what we have going on a lot today. So like, and I don't have the answer to that. I mean, like, why does God have us, why does God tell one person or one group of people one thing, and another person, another group of people, another thing? I get, if I was God, I don't think I would do that. I think I'd have everybody agree on everything. And people say, oh, that'd be boring. No, that wouldn't be boring. Everybody agrees on everything, and everybody enjoys agreeing with everybody on everything. So again, like, sometimes like relating to God is like trying to figure out why God does what he does, and hope that, God knows more than us, but still we appeal our case. Chuck.
Yeah, George, I mean, God, human beings have been talking to God
Oh,
for
wait a minute.
tens of.
I'm sorry. I'm still like, that was just 1 minute. Sorry, hold on.
Oh,
Um,
go ahead. You got
yeah,
something more to say? Go ahead.
yeah, because like, let me just, the audience, like we're alternating 2 minutes each. Because like if you listen to people on TV, they go on and on and on after they've said what they want to said. And 2 minutes may actually be too much. We might want to like eventually go to 1 minute each. But this way you're getting the essence of what we're saying, what we want to say. We're not meandering. Again, like you watch talk radio, that happens all the time. Um, so wait a minute. Josh, did I go is this into my third minute or into my second minute?
Oh, I'm not good.
Um all right. Well, because I'm talking, I thought like, I think I only talked 1 minute. I think, but anyway, if I didn't all right, again, why does God do that?
Take another two,
Yeah,
George.
no,
Take
no, no,
another
I'm just
two. Go
going to
ahead.
16. I'm going on, because and again, I couldn't make this. This might be like I might have gotten this wrong. We got to figure this out. But anyway, if let's say I got it wrong, right? Why does God make us make this? It wasn't. I didn't do this of my free will. God made me get this wrong. So like, why does God do that? Again, this is a major, major kind of a question. Yeah, Josh, actually, I think I did go. Look, this is like 4 minutes. So why don't you take 4 minutes? Really do an expanded, and then we'll get back to the 2 minute format. But
Sh-
again, why does God do this? Go ahead.
Sure. So this is a really interesting thing that just happened, and we can use it because we can use everything to understand God and talk to God, right? So, George's timer is counting down from 30 minutes. My counter's counting up. My timer's counting up, and I'm just looking at the clock over here and trying to keep track of it and have a conversation, right? And so we easily can explain, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. They're trying to do a show and counting numbers and they haven't done this format before, right? We get it, right? But when we hear somebody say, oh, well, God told me this, and this is what God told me, well, we judge that completely different. And all the same logic and rationale of, okay, I get it. I get why you say that applies, and in a loving way, just like I say, oh, I'm not good with math and numbers and I've got so many things going on, I'm paying attention now, right? But that same thing applies, and unfortunately a lot of evil things have happened in the name of God and religion, and so naturally, as human beings, as a species, we are defensive. We got walls put up, right, with this. But we live in a time of unprecedented peace, right? And we don't have religious wars starting like we used to. We don't have people roaming the savannah looking for people who disagree with their version of God and killing them, right? And but in the back of our mind, this is what we've inherited, so we can relax and we can you know accept each other's version of God and accept that reality, right? Because what's ultimately happened is, just like we have these timers going on and the clock and the camera, and I got lights and I got my microphone and my headset. This is all stimuli, right? That my mind is trying to manage all these things and get it right. But it's not going to get it right every time. It's not going to get it right most of the time. And that mind of mine is not really mine. That's God's mind that put me on this earth. I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose my genetics. I didn't choose exactly the chemistry that of what I ate today, of how it's affecting me, right? And none of us did, right? But we're given these messages through media and through past religions, past versions of religions, and past ideologies of God, that we are ultimately responsible. And if we get it wrong, then we deserve to burn in hell for eternity, or to, whatever it is, we're evil people. But that's so absurd, and we get that now. And so this message should, you know, can change our perspective of this idea of God and what God is, and this expansive idea of God, that God is truly everything. God created everything. And we're already doing this. All of us are already doing this. Even if you don't use the word God, even if you don't believe in God, right? when you sit with things, when you sit with reality, with mistakes you've made, with things that people have said that have offended you, and you
of this expansive causality of, you know,
understand it all. There's a knowledge, there's a wisdom, there's truth and causality far beyond my grasp, right? Even far beyond the grasp of science and religion. Then all of these attributes of God, of peace and love and faith and grace and forgiveness and mercy and hope, can wash over you. And if even if you don't use the word God to describe what's going on, that's still what's happening, right? And we can connect that with this reality that for tens of thousands of years humans have talked to God and worshiped God and understood God or gods in this way, and we are drawing from that. Our consciousness exists, all these forms of consciousness exist because of that.
All right. So again, for a reason that we can't understand, but we have faith that God is much more intelligent than we are and God knows everything. God has apparently caused us to, for millennia, believe that our thoughts are up to us, that what we do is up to us and all. Fine, we're beginning to understand that that's not the case. Everything's up to God. So that should inform why it's beneficial to talk to God. Again, the idea is that when we're talking to ourselves, when we're talking to each other, it's indirect. It's like puppets talking to puppets. It's like a computer. If you go to YouTube, there are these two artificial intelligence computers, bots, and they're having a conversation. It's funny, there's several of them. And basically that's what we humans do when we talk to each other. It's like a robot talking. So like, all right, again, like, from this, fine, we've been deluded into believing that we are the authors of our thoughts. Now we're beginning to wake up, and God God deceived us in the first place. Now God is making us wake up to this understanding that no, nothing is up to us. So, right, so one of the takeaways from that evolved knowledge is that it's probably beneficial to talk more directly to the source of everything, to God that is everything, that's even putting all your thoughts into your mind. And so, fine, it's not up to you, but apparently if you find yourself getting this knowledge and talking with God, then that's a very good thing.
Yeah, this getting this knowledge and talking to God, right? And it's kind of sad how we judge it, or we box it in, because we don't do it with anything else. We with everything else, with business, with science, with learning the hard way, or mistakes are the secret to wisdom. We appreciate that. And so, I mean, again, I get it. I understand why people are concerned. There's no shortage of televangelists throughout the history of televangelism that have tried to take advantage, and we're out for profit. We're wanting you to send money so they could buy private jets. I get it, right? But that doesn't mean that this same evolution of consciousness doesn't apply, right? Just like it does in science, just like it does in literature or anything else, right? And humans only discover truth. They only evolve and develop better societies by trial and error, right? And so, if you felt like you've made mistakes, or you got God wrong in the past, which I certainly do. I was a missionary, and I didn't understand the illusions and the illusion of free will, and I was, probably responsible for making people feel bad for things they did that truly weren't their fault, right? But this, God created us in this way, and he put this cause and effect in motion so that we could continue to evolve to higher and higher forms of elevated consciousness, right? And understanding, and pass that on to the future generations. And if we stop that, if we blame ourselves and shame ourselves and don't embrace this and enjoy this process, this unveiling, because we're too self-critical or too critical of others, then we don't leave such a good future for the future generations.
All right, you raise a great point. Often, God makes us make mistakes. We don't make mistakes of our free will. You know, if it was up to us, we would never make mistakes. But God makes us make mistakes. But what's worse than that, from our perspective, is that then God causes us to blame ourselves. Hold on. God causes us to blame ourselves for these mistakes rather than attributing these mistakes to God, in which case we would be spared the pain and the guilt and the shame and all that comes with our delusion that what we do is up to us. Why does God do that? I have no idea. But like, if you're talking to God, you might want to talk to him about that. You might want to say, God, you know, like, if you're making me make mistakes, you know, fine. If you're going to make me make mistakes every once in a while, I can accept that. But don't then have me believe that these mistakes are up to me. Because you know, because I know better, because you finally taught me. You finally taught me that, you know, and actually that's interesting, because like, Josh and I, and a lot of people know that because nothing is up to us of what we do as humans, that we're really not to blame for anything we do. All right, and we know this very, very strongly, but it doesn't reflect, you know, we make mistakes and we either forget that in our learning, or maybe we don't know it as strongly as we believe we do. But that's another thing to talk to God about. Like, you know, God, listen, I get that everything's up to you. So like, you know, I don't want to feel bad about your making me make mistakes, and I need you to help me to do that. So again, like, this is all about, you know, interacting with God to improve our lives in various ways.
Yeah. I'm reminded of, you know, this concept of why does God do this, right? And you know, you keep repeating it and I keep saying it, you know, but that's, you know, if we look at how we started out this series, we started out this series with defining God, and we even looked at the Wikipedia page of the attributes of God and talking about God as the creator of everything, right? And as everything, and as always present, and as everywhere, right? And so what this means is God is essentially synonymous, right? Or at least the relationship that we can have with God is synonymous with causality, cause and effect, even the laws of the universe, right? You know, this includes all of our being, all of our happiness, all of our mistakes, all of the goodness in the world, and even all of the evil, you know, quote unquote evil, right? And so this, you know, it's like, you know, we keep struggling in saying this. You know, if I was God, I would do it differently, or I don't know why God does this, but he does. But we already solved that problem. And like, we've inherited this long history of this view of God that, you know, even though it's in scripture, all the spiritual texts, you know, the ego, the human ego, the monkey ego, whatever it is, still has trouble accepting it. And maybe this is what we're evolving to, being able to truly, with all of our being, all of our language, all of our science, even, this view of God, right? So, you know, in this is some of the most profound grace, the most profound love and acceptance and peace and access to happiness and joy and the best times and the most appreciation for life and consciousness and, you know, all of this stuff from this new idea of God.
Absolutely. So like, it is really important, you know, in addition to kind of asking God for what we need, it's so important to thank God for everything we have. I mean, we in this generation, the last, you know, 30, 40 years, most of us, not all of us, there's still a lot of people who are extremely poor, and we need to fix that, you know, as soon as possible, really. We shouldn't, you know, wait on that at all. But relative to 200 years ago or 400 years ago, 1,000 years ago, so many of us are living so much better. We have so much to be thankful for. And it isn't just the big things like food, shelter, and clothing. It's like the little things that happen every day. It's like, you know, we're constantly being blessed. And like, it's very important to communicate to God about these blessings, to have and feel this gratitude. Because what happens sometimes is we get so focused on what's wrong with life that prevents us from appreciating, so much that's right with life. And again, if we had a free will, we would be that appreciative, that expressing that gratitude to God all the time. And I think some of us do it. Personally, I should do that more. I tend to kind of like express my gratitude to God through works, through helping make the world better. But I think, yes, I think in my personal experience, when I talk to God, and I've done this before and it feels great, to thank God that the sun is out. Thank God that, that for so many things, for everything. All right, Josh, close out the episode.
Yeah, George. Some profound principles there, right? So, there's gratitude and happiness, the hedonic principle that you've so well laid out for us in past episodes, and you know these are the things, this and love, right? Love consciousness. So if we're going toward this, we are going toward a better understanding, a better relationship with God, right? How to have these relationships. You and I haven't recorded since like 5 days, and that absence has made my heart grow fonder, and I'm much more grateful and appreciative to do that, right? And to be here now. And so, right, whatever the relationship is to whatever is going on in our life, try to navigate that, try you know um, to try to have this deeper understanding, this connection to God that helps us to love what we're doing, to be happy in what we're doing, right? And to be able to share it more, authentically and lovingly with other people, and whatever that is, right? Whatever, if it's taking a break, if it's going deeper, if it's trying a different approach, if it's involving more people, if it's doing it on our own, if it's mixing two things together, just like we do with like whatever, dance, music, and food and drink, right? So we mix these stimuli together to just create the best experience that we can, and see how that affects our lives, right? And see how that changes us and gives us an understanding, makes us feel alive in a way that we never have before. And this is truly what God is, because God has given us all of these things and all of this abundance and prosperity for us to try to make our consciousness, our minds, our relationships with God and with each other come to life as much as possible. And so we'll see you tomorrow on God.